welcome to Meldon Law Talk, a service of Meldon Law, a statewide law firm with its primary office in Gainesville and also with offices in Ocala and Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Today is Friday, November 6th, 2020. My name is Chris Qualmann. I, during the day, work as the Chief Investigator and Pre-Litigation Manager at Meldon Law. And of course, proud as always to be joined by the founder, the everything of Meldon Law, Jeffrey Meldon. How are you doing today, Jeffrey?
I'm doing great, Chris. How you doing?
I'm feeling terrific. It's been a great week. We got a big day tomorrow. We've got the Florida-Georgia game with all we've had to deal with the coronavirus and everything. We still got that game tomorrow. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I think it's going to be a tight game. I saw the spread was somewhere around 4.5 points, which means that anything could happen.
Anything could happen. That's always the case. We have a very special show. You probably think we say that all the time, but we really have a special show of Meldon Law Talk. We've got a very special guest to my left, a name and a face that's probably very familiar to longtime Gator fans, Dr. Peter Indelicato. Welcome to the show, Dr. Peter Indelicato.
Glad to be here. Excited about the upcoming show.
Oh, we're certainly glad and proud to have you. So, Jeffrey, you've worked with Dr. Indelicato. Goodness, I can't even say it right. Indelicato, a long time. So why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about his history?
Well, Dr. Pete, as he was formerly known, and I got to be really good friends a little over 20 years ago, and we got to know each other primarily socially, but of course I was aware of what Peter's efforts were for many, many years with both the University of Florida and with the Miami Dolphins. Dr. Indelicato was the team physician for the University of Florida for, 35 years?
Yes.
And he actually had a day job too.
I mean, I remember you when I was a freshman, in the 70s, and then I went to law school, and you were an icon for many, many years.
Jeff, you brought up a good point. People think that that's all I did was take care of the university athletes, but I had a day job, like you said. I was a very busy surgeon on the clinical faculty at the College of Medicine for 35 plus years. So I used to work all day, and then when my regular job was over, 5, 6 o'clock, I go to the training room for another hour or two.
Well, that must have been really, a big challenge for you. I know that you actually, at one time, were also the Miami Dolphins, assistant physician, for them, and were traveling with them at the same time.
Yeah, there was a 8 or 9 year period of time that I would attend a Gator football game wherever on Saturday, and after that was over, get on a plane and catch up with the Dolphins wherever they were on Sunday.
Logistically, that must have been really amazing how you worked that out. I mean, you would be in Gainesville on a Friday. I think you told us before the show you would even do the same service for Gainesville High School from time to time.
From time to time. If there was a home game on Saturday with the Gators, I'd try and provide services to the Gainesville High School on a Friday evening. And it was logistically. I became very good friends with a lot of travel agents over that 8 year period of time, where they knew what I needed to get done, and they were very helpful. And when they couldn't put me on a commercial flight, then I would be at the service of the Miami Dolphins, and they would do their best to get me to where I needed to be.
So it must have been really interesting. So if the Gators are on a road game and the Dolphins are on a road game, then you're going to one place outside of Gainesville on Saturday, or you'd go Friday night?
Friday afternoon.
With the Gators.
With the Gators. Right. And then, like I mentioned a little bit ago, I remember one specific time where we were playing LSU in Baton Rouge on Saturday night. And rather than fly back to Gainesville with the Gator team, I rented a car and drove to New Orleans, spent the night at a hotel by the airport in New Orleans, and then got up like 6 o'clock in the morning and got on a flight to Buffalo or New England or something like that to catch up with the Miami team there, stayed, went to that game, and then spent the night in Buffalo, and then flew back to Gainesville Monday afternoon and went right to surgery, went right to the OR and did surgery.
Let me ask you this, Dr. Indelicato, for those of us like me who've never worked in the medical profession, what is maybe the day in the life of a team physician? What are some of the typical things you would do, whether it's for the Dolphins or for the Gators?
Wow, I mean, basically you're available 24/7.
Okay.
And even before cell phones, you had beepers, and you would just make yourself available, and you had to love it, and I did, and that was the best part of my job.
Sure.
Was being a team physician. It's availability. It's being able to communicate well to high school kids, to their parents, to college kids, to professional athletes, to their agents, to team owners, to athletic directors, to head coaches. To be honest, you have to have a certain amount of skills in communicating.
Yeah, let me ask you this. How about when you have to tell the head coach in the middle of the game that his player can't go back in the game?
Well, I've been blessed. Most of the time, the coaches, they understood. They didn't challenge you, but don't get confused. They would get upset, and I would say something like, "Coach, I didn't hurt him. I'm just telling you."
Right.
I'm just
I'm the messenger. Don't kill the messenger. And they were good. They all treated me with respect, and
I would imagine the players sometimes would give you some pushback, would say, "Hey, I'm ready. I feel like I'm ready to go back." And
absolutely.
You'd have to be the bearer of bad news
Absolutely.
and say,
As somebody told me, and I tell, sometimes you have to be their mother and father, because you can't be too much of a fan. Although you obviously love the people that you're working with, but you can't let being a fan affect what's best for the athlete. And not only what's best for the athlete, whether he plays next week or not, but what kind of condition he's going to be 2, 5, 15 years from now.
What kind of changes in protocol did you see over your almost 35-year career on the sideline?
Well, I mean, you talk about knee surgery. I mean, that was barbaric, basically in the mid-'70s. And now it is phenomenal with arthroscopy and everything that can be diagnosed accurately and fixed through the arthroscope. Concussions, how we're managing concussions now compared to 10, 15, 20 years ago is a lot more scientific. There's great data to show how we're making better decisions. There's a whole range of things, Jeff, that have advanced over the last 30 years. Even conditioning in the off season, how that has become a lot more scientific now. And
it seems like teams put a lot more emphasis on the strength and conditioning coach. That's a year-round position. They're not just working with the football players, they're working with all the teams, but it's a full-time position that requires, obviously, education and training, right?
Absolutely, and there's a lot more science involved in those strength conditioning coaches. And what I loved was that there's a lot more interaction between the team physician and the strength conditioning coach, so that in the off-season, we're not aggravating problems in the weight room that can be avoided by a more individual approach to what an athlete's problems are.
It's interesting because sometimes during the season, I'll hear of players going in for a scope and knee surgery, and they say, well, they're going to be back on the field in 3 or 4 weeks, which it sounds amazing to me.
Yeah, it is. It's, again, the ability to diagnose it accurately and fix it at the same time has been probably the single most dramatic, from a surgical standpoint, advancement that's been made in sports medicine over the past 25, 30 years.
How many knees do you think you surgically repaired?
Well, somebody asked me that question. I used to do about 120 to 130 ACL reconstructions every year, just that one procedure. And if you times that by 35, 40 years, it's a lot.
Yeah, but that's a real complicated procedure compared to just an easy knee scope.
Yeah.
And of course, it's the football players that people hear about the most that have these types of procedures, or basketball players. But in fact, you've done this for the entire sports program at the University of Florida, for swimmers, track athletes, the whole gamut, right?
Right, and not only that, but we take the advances that are made in sports medicine and apply them to the general population.
Okay.
So your knee injury or your ankle injury is now treated much more like an athlete's knee injury and ankle injury than what we used to do with those injuries 30 years ago.
I wanted to mention for those of you, whether you're listening or watching, who have never been to the facility on Hull Road, I went there about a year ago. I had an auto accident, so I went there for some follow-up physical therapy on my wrist. And as a fan, it's just amazing up there. You know, you've got literally a shrine to all these athletes and coaches. Again, players from all walks of athletic life, swimmers, basketball players, everybody. And it's just an amazing thing to see up there. So whether you're being treated or not, I want to urge people to check out Dr. Pete's facility.
You know, Pete, I know you were very much involved in creating that building and that protocol. Why don't you mention that?
Well, yeah, I mean, that was back in 2004. Our Department of Orthopedics got a little bit of a windfall due to some thoughtful investments by our chairman prior to that. And we used that money to build this building on 34th Street, the Sports Medicine Center, Orthopedic and Sports Medicine Center. And I was able to talk to the powers that be at both the health center and at the university to devote a significant portion of that square footage to sports medicine. And we had all sorts of input into the design of the building, a motion analysis lab, a throwing analysis lab, physical therapy, imaging studies. We tried to do one-stop shopping back in the early 2000s, and fortunately, it worked out very well.
Yeah, I remember meeting with you, and I think Paul Dell was really involved in that.
Yep.
And it was cool because all of a sudden, you guys were designing state-of-the-art building that was the way you wanted it.
Right. It became very functional for both the physician and, more importantly, for the patients.
I want to just comment on something else you said. And again, as a patient of that facility, you talked about how the technologies and methodologies are being applied to all patients. I can attest to that. I was given first-class treatment when I was there. I had a badly broken wrist. I was operated on by one of the physicians based out of the 39th Avenue's office. But then when I came for my PT there, they just did a magnificent job. So it's truly a wonderful facility. We're about to wrap up this segment of Meldon Law Talk. This is a special program with Dr. Peter Indelicato, longtime team physician for the University of Florida, also team physician for the Miami Dolphins. We want to remind you, though, that this is a service of Meldon Law, a statewide law firm. Take a look at our website at www.meldonlaw.com. Give us a call anytime, 24/7 at 1-800-373-8000. Our primary practice areas are personal injury law and criminal defense. However, no matter what your issue may be, give us a call. A legal professional will take your call and we'll do our best to steer you in the right direction if it isn't something we do. We will be back. This is a great hour of programming. I have to say that because it's the truth. We'll be back with Dr. Indelicato for another segment. We're also going to be talking with Carey Meldon about the South Florida office. We're going to be talking with both Carey and Jeffrey collectively about the excellent client experience we create for every client of Meldon Law. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll be right back.
The Meldon Law Firm from the beginning has been built on giving back to the community. I enjoy coming to work as much today as I did in 1971 when I opened my practice. I don't look at this as a job. I look at it as serving other people. While we're alive, what better feeling can you achieve than knowing that you've helped other people and thereby you enrich your own life?
I've done mornings here on Sky Radio for 17 years. Jeffrey Meldon started doing his weekend show here 16 years ago. One of the things that separates Jeffrey is I don't see him out there hollering for people's business. I see him out there investing in the community. He's touched a lot of lives, and a lot of it he'll never know what a difference he made in somebody's life. about information that he has shared on the air.
Hello and welcome back to Meldon Law Talk, a service of Meldon Law, a statewide law firm with its primary office in Gainesville and also with offices in Ocala and Fort Lauderdale. My name is Chris Qualmann, the Chief Investigator and Pre-Litigation Manager for the firm. Of course, joined by Jeffrey Meldon, President and Founder of Meldon Law. Let me say a few things quickly just to get them off the plate. Please take a look at our website at www.meldonlaw.com. We are a law firm that handles personal injury cases as well as criminal defense cases. Whether it's a motor vehicle crash, a big truck crash, what we call premises liability, trip and fall, or a criminal defense matter such as DUI, we can handle the case. We are also a firm that is in partnership, we're proud to say, with the University of Florida, the Florida Gators. We're very proud of that, Jeffrey. I know that's something you've worked your heart and soul on.
Well, yes, it's an honor that the Gators came to us and asked us to be partners with them. And we really enjoy giving back to the community. We've done that through our Scholar Athlete program for many years. We've done that with our Veterans Making a Difference program, our Law Talk live program on the
18
Sky.
years you've had that going.
18 years, our community newsletter. So it's a good fit for us because it's just a continuation of our desire to give back to the community that's provided so much for us.
I have to say, so I went with you to the game last week, the Missouri game. Of course, tomorrow is the huge Florida-Georgia rivalry, but that was the first actual game I've been to in Gainesville this season. It was pretty cool. We saw our name up there on the electronic board, and we had a lot of signage. It was pretty neat.
Yeah, and I could sit there having a Bud Light. I thought that was awesome.
Stretching out, socially distanced. It was pretty amazing. So, again, as we had during the first segment, we've got a very special guest, extraordinarily well-known, name and face to University of Florida Gator fans, Dr. Peter Indelicato. You know, I tried to find a biography. It was easy to find one. There were lots of articles about Dr. Peter Indelicato on the internet. I mean, we could spend the whole segment reading down his accomplishments, which are very, very many. But suffice it to say, for 35 years, the team physician for University of Florida for the Florida Gators, team physician for the Miami Dolphins, just so many different things he's done. And like he talked about during the first segment, even has a day job as a surgeon for UF Health. Jeffrey, I know you've known Dr. Indelicato a long time, and really pretty amazing some of the things that have happened here in Gainesville over the years.
Well, you know, it's the great thing about the Gainesville community that a lot of us are really good friends, and there's so many exceptional people in the Gainesville area. We kind of take it for granted, you know, but I don't. I always brag about all these great people that I get to meet in Gainesville, and really nice folks that are just regular people. And my wife moved up from Miami, and she talks about how shocked she was when she came to Gainesville, where if you come to a four-way stop sign, people are actually courteous, you know, they wait for you to move forward, you know, they're pretty, you know, it's pretty laid back community compared to some places. Although you lived a very fast paced life, really, moving around as both a doctor at the university as well as the team physician.
Yeah, and I stopped for stop signs. And I grew up in New York where you don't stop for stop signs.
I know. Well, you know, I wanted to ask you, you know, we've talked about it, but where you grew up in New York was right near where Dr. Anthony Fauci in that neighborhood, right?
Right. And as point of interest is that his family came from the same small town in Sicily that my parents came from. So for all I know, I could be related to him a little bit.
So what do you think of how he's conducted himself through this whole COVID thing?
You know, I admire him a lot because it's a political minefield. I think to remain neutral, to remain optimistic, but yet be honest with the audience, with the people out there, and I give him credit. I think he's done a marvelous job of being able to do that.
So obviously the whole COVID situation has impacted not just all walks of society, but we're talking about University of Florida, you know, the students, how it's affected the students and how it's affected the athletes. Maybe tell our listeners and viewers from your perspective, how has that worked out?
Well, it's just a different situation, and the athletes and the staff and the medical support staff have done, I think, a great job in adjusting to what has to be done and what should be done. But hopefully, we won't have to go through this another season.
Who would have predicted this a year ago? For
Right.
goodness sake, it's just surreal.
Yeah, it is. It's surreal. That's
You know,
a perfect word
one
for it.
thing I wanted to point out, Jeffrey, at the football game, I had a lot of people asking me when I had my kids, for example, who were worried about me going to the football game. I was so impressed, seriously, with how well the University of Florida stadium staff handled that. There were signs everywhere, first of all, everywhere, saying you cannot enter the stadium without a mask. They had people enforcing it, and I looked around, I would say 95%, you know, maybe a couple of persons here and there, people to sip their beer and sip their Coke, but other than that, I was extraordinarily impressed by how well it was being followed.
Yeah, I credit it all to everybody, the fans, the athletic department, administration. You know, let's keep our fingers crossed and it doesn't change, and we'll get through it. And next year we'll all go back to tailgating and singing "We Are the Boys" and Tom Petty. And
Yeah, won't back down.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you know, but that's one of Meldon Law's theme songs, right?
do know that.
Won't back down. I love it when the insurance adjuster calls the office and she has to listen to "Won't Back Down."
That's right. It's on our music on hold. We don't back down. And it's on our electronic banner at the stadium. So we're telling everybody there too.
Yeah, and I can say I think thank you from the community for being such a big supporter of Tom Petty and how we are remembering him in the Gainesville community.
Well, you know, I'll tell you, music and athletics are two of the most enjoyable things that I do and spend my time in my life. I like my profession and I love being a lawyer too, but music and sports is what I look forward to on the weekends. So, you know, it's pretty cool. And I was thinking, of all the great artists that have come out of Florida, Tom Petty may be the most famous musical artist that's come out of out of the whole state. And, you know, right here in Gainesville, Florida, you know, was where he was from. So we have something to celebrate. And the festival, the Tom Petty Birthday Bash, is going to be next year. I think it's October 23rd through the 25th.
Right.
And we're gonna do it outside live with real people there, and we will figure out a way to make it happen.
No cutouts.
No. So anyhow, I want to get to another topic. Okay, I want to find out what is it like during halftime when you go back into back into
Locker room.
the locker room. Yeah, the locker room. Tell us a little bit about what the scene is like, and do you have all the players together, the players in the corners? How did the different coaches separate? How do they do that?
Yeah, well, I most of the time at halftime, I'm in the training room, whether it's a home and away game. I mean, we're there looking at people that we need to take a second look at, let's say, during the first half. And if time permits, I go into the locker room, and sometimes the training room is really part of the locker room at some of these away stadiums. And I think, sort of to spell it out, as the players come off the field at halftime, they break up into different sections, depending on their positions. They'll talk to their position coach, and then the head coach usually saves at least 2 or 3 minutes to assemble the whole team as a unit before they go back on the field, the second half. And depending on the circumstances, he's got some points he wants to make. It's not a place for the faint of heart. Sometimes, but it's great to hear these coaches how they use different techniques to capture the enthusiasm and the awareness of the athletes before they go out.
Can you comment on that? For example,
He wants a war story, in other words.
No. Look, we've had some really great coaches.
Right.
You've got Spurrier and Urban Meyer who won national championships. Can you
Don
contrast?
Shula,
No, but just contrast like Urban style in the locker room
Right.
versus Spurrier style.
I think Spurrier was a quieter coach. I mean, he got loud and emotional, but his voice would never scare you. Let's put it like that. Whereas Coach Meyer, I mean, he was fire and brimstone kind of a
And I
coach.
get the sense that Coach Mullen might be a little bit like that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Very
he's-
much so.
Yeah, he's a disciple, I think, of Urban, but he's got his own style of things. I would say he's sort of, and this is a guess, that he's somewhat of a mix between a Spurrier and a Meyer.
How about Charlie Pell?
Oh boy, he was tough. He was tough.
Well, look what he had to deal with. He
he was
came at
smoking
that
cigarettes.
0-10-1, and then he turned that around to 8-4. Yeah.
I was telling Jeff, we were running off the field in '79 after the 0-10-1
Yeah.
season. Miami just beat us, and I was walking off the field next to him, and he was smoking his Vanguard cigarettes, and he tapped me on the shoulder. He says, "Doc," he said, "we're 0-10-1." I said, "Yeah, Coach." He says, "Now you know what the bottom feels like." And he just put the cigarette out and he walked into the locker room. Yeah.
But then, what was it?
Yeah,
84?
84 turned it around, went to the Tangerine.
Oh, I thought he was an amazing coach.
Yeah.
Despite all the things that went on, I had so much admiration for Charlie Pell.
He had a lot of bad Brian in him.
And
Yeah,
he was the first coach that, in a long time that had really brought the program up to a really competitive level.
He did. He made the Gator community all around the state feel wanted.
Improved the
and needed.
facilities
Improved the
among
facilities, yeah.
just a tremendous coach.
So anyhow, we're getting ready to kind of wrap up this segment of the show. And first of all, I want to thank you for joining us. We're going to have
Definitely.
you back on sometime in the future because we've just scratched the surface. And, after you have a long career like you and I have both had, it's kind of fun kind of looking back and talking about it. So I want to thank you very much for joining us. And, anybody that wants to find us, you can go on Facebook and go to, Meldon Law.
That's right.
You can find us there. Plus, where else?
Well, of course, our website, www.meldonlaw.com, or you can call us, 1-800-373-8000, or you can get us with your cell phone at pound HURT, pound 4878, pound HURT. Our primary areas of practice are personal injury law as well as criminal defense law. We're going to be talking about that in more detail in the next segment. We're going to be welcoming Carey Meldon. I'm going to be surrounded by Meldons in the next two segments, but Carey has done such a tremendous job for the firm. He has been working the Fort Lauderdale office now for 3 years. I didn't realize it was that long, but it's 3 years. So we'll be talking about the history of Meldon Law and also the Fort Lauderdale office. Maybe we'll talk about the Ocala office too. Next segment. Dr. Indelicato, again, thank you so much for being a part of this program.
No, thank you.
And we'll be right back. Thanks for being a part of this.
I was driving behind a lady, and very suddenly she moved out of the way. There was a log laying in the road, and when I hit my brakes, I went on top of the log. I had 280 discs. I just haven't been the same since. Jeffrey Meldon fought for me all the way. Him and his team really went there for me. Throughout the whole lawsuit, he made sure that my bills was paid. It was never no whenever I called him and asked him for something.
Being a client of Meldon Law was special because I felt like I was really being listened to and I felt welcome by the entire staff. If I were in a situation where I needed legal advice and help, I would absolutely reach out to Jeffrey because his reputation alone speaks for itself. But on a personal level, I know that he would take care of me and help me solve those problems, and I would feel safe with him.
Hello and welcome back to Meldon Law Talk, a service of Meldon Law, a statewide law firm with its primary office in Gainesville, Florida, and also with offices in Ocala and Fort Lauderdale, Florida. You can check us out on the World Wide Web, www.meldonlaw.com, or you can give us a call anytime 24/7 at 1-800-373-8000. Our primary practice areas are personal injury law and criminal defense law, but whatever your issue may be, whatever your question may be, give us a call 24/7. We'll do our best to steer you in the right direction. If it's something not really within our wheelhouse, but by all means, give us a call. We'd love to talk to you and help you out. Again, this is a service of Meldon Law, and I am surrounded by Meldons. Meldons to the right, Meldons to the left. Jeffrey Meldon, founder of the firm. Carey Meldon, who is more than just a partner in the firm, more than just another Meldon. He is running the Fort Lauderdale office, and we're going to be talking a lot about that. So, Jeffrey, I thought, though, for the benefit of the listeners, maybe say a few words, listeners and viewers who are watching the podcast, that you say a few words about the history of Meldon Law, how you started, how you came to be as an attorney in the state of Florida, and just a few words about the growth and development of the firm.
Well, I was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. I went to Ohio State undergrad, and then I went to Case Western Reserve Law School in Cleveland. And I graduated, and I started looking for places I was going to move. And I picked Gainesville because I had some friends here, and I visited a couple times. And I said, "This is a pretty cool city. You know, it's a college town, and I was a long-haired hippie lawyer, so I figured what better place to come."
And there are pictures to prove that, right?
Pictures to prove that. So in 1970, I moved down here, took the Florida bar exam, passed it, and opened up my law office. And it's been really interesting because from the beginning, most of the folks that started hiring me to be a lawyer were people that were friends of mine, people that I had met in the 14 months before I actually opened up my office. Even Tom Petty and I had
was
worked
about to
together.
say, one of your most famous clients was one of your first clients,
Yeah.
Tom Petty.
Absolutely. So when we started out, I took every single case that came in the door.
Threshold law. In other words,
Yeah.
if it crosses the threshold, you handle it.
Now the first area of practice that I decided I would never take any more of were family law cases, okay? I figured that one out. That was not for me.
And we know some excellent family law attorneys that we will gladly refer your case to.
But I didn't want to sit there spending my professional life arguing over pots and pans and beds and all this kind of stuff.
So what made you decide to do personal injury law?
Well, I've been a trial lawyer right from the beginning. I used to try DUI cases. I'd take any kind of a criminal law case. And back in the 1970s, there was a lot of marijuana cases that we were helping people with. We were, defending people all over the state of Florida, really, because of Florida's unique location. There was a lot of smuggling going on and things like that. So I was a trial lawyer, and then when personal injury cases came in, it was pretty easy because instead of defending the case, I more or less became the prosecutor in the case. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was really fun. And it was a very interesting, learning curve as far as trying to understand how to try a personal injury case. In personal injury cases, you're taking innocent people that have been victims of a serious crash and trying to help them put their lives back together. And for me, that was very rewarding.
And what's amazing, I've been a member of the firm, now it'll be 4 years in January, but you've got people that have worked here for over 20 years. You've got Carolyn Watson, you've got Abby, we've got to mention, who's been with you really from day one. I think that's one of the amazing things about the firm is that it's not just you, not just Carey, you've got some really talented staff.
Yes, and it's a team effort. You know, Dr. Indelicato was talking in another episode about, the team effort and how things work. You know, we have a team at Meldon Law, and we all work together. And Carey is now heading up our South Florida office, but due to the advances in technology, it's almost like a seamless transition in order to have another office, because literally our phone system is hooked up, and it's like Carey's in
Definitely.
the next room, and and our computers and everything.
It really seems like the Zoom technology, it's helped us. We really are able to better serve our clients. Carey, I want to toss to you. I'd like you to maybe tell the listeners and the viewers a little bit of your history. You know, how it was. Obviously, you came to be a lawyer. You came from a family of lawyers, not just your father, but other people in your family. So maybe share a little bit about your history.
Well, I was born and raised in Gainesville, Florida. I was born in Alachua General Hospital, which no longer is standing, but back then it was where most of the kids were born in 1978. And I was raised in Gainesville and had the opportunity to attend a lot of different schools and create some valuable relationships that I still have to this day. In fact, I probably have more high school friends now than I should, but we still get together and
they know you're a lawyer, so they call you about everything.
Yeah, I get a lot of referrals, but more importantly, they're like brothers and sisters to me. But I ended up going to college in Virginia. I played college tennis.
I was about to say, there was a special reason for that. I know you're very humble about this, but you were quite a competitive tennis player.
I was very competitive. I hated losing, and I realized that very early on, that I had a sense of competitiveness that I had to be able to satisfy. And tennis was a great sport for that, because it was an individual sport, and you either get all the glory or you have to deal with the losses. And I feel that it actually prepared me well for my career as a litigator, because what we do in a trial is basically go to bat, and there's generally a winner or a loser. And one thing about tennis is that it's a marathon and not a sprint. In other words, you're going to lose a lot of points and lose a lot of games, and sometimes you lose matches.
Interesting analogy. I see where you're going.
But I won a lot more than I lost, because I hated losing so much, and I was okay with losing.
Gee, I wonder where you got that from.
Yeah, I was okay with losing sets, and I was okay with losing points or games. I never gave up.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like in trial law, there's a lot of momentum shifts. And if you've ever been a juror, or if you've ever been a part of a jury trial as a witness, or maybe even as a party, a defendant or a plaintiff, you'll notice these momentum shifts, and all of a sudden you'll think, oh my God, I'm going to lose my case. And then 2 hours later, you get a great piece of evidence that is revealed in your favor. So that was kind of my first time realizing that I was probably going to be a litigator, was in college. I ended up going to law school in St. Pete at a school called Stetson Law School, which my grandfather on my mother's side attended, and back in the late 40s, early 50s. And he became a very famous trial lawyer in the South Florida, and then the East Coast in Daytona Beach. And he was one of the first members of the NAACP in terms of a white person being willing to represent minorities. He grew up in a very disadvantaged, with a disadvantaged lifestyle. He put himself through college through the GI Bill, and became an incredible trial lawyer. But he was also very competitive and very fiery. So, I have a lot of this. We have a lot of attorneys in the Meldon family, and in our extended family as well.
How many do we have?
Right now, like active attorneys, probably if we go to Thanksgiving, we'll have at least 8 or 9.
I know, if we count the spouses.
Your sister, of course, Jessica.
My sister, my uncle Greg, of course my father Jeffrey, my aunt Rachel, her husband Joe, my cousin Jacob, his wife Dana, and I know I'm missing some more. There's got to be more out there.
Let me ask you this, Carey. Something Jeffrey mentioned when he was talking a few moments ago. He talked about how he developed his litigation skills by doing criminal law.
Mm-hmm.
And you really have that same background. You went right from law school to becoming a prosecutor.
Right.
So how did that help develop you, A, for being a criminal defense lawyer, but also for doing personal injury law?
So when I graduated law school, I pretty much knew I wanted to be a trial lawyer, and the best experience at trial law was through the state attorney's office. And they call it the DA in New York and some northern states, but in Florida, they call it the state attorney's office. And so I got offered a job in Daytona Beach to become an assistant state attorney. And it was great because my last name was Meldon, and not many people knew Meldon over there. They knew my dad. Some people knew my dad, but most of the judges and the other lawyers I was dealing with knew my uncle Greg, but his last name was Wagner.
They knew Wagner. They didn't know.
Right. So I got to make my mistakes and nobody knew who I was. So I got 4 years of trials. I tried about 50.
Well, it's really amazing, though. You go right to the fire. I mean, when you're working for the state attorney's office and the public defender's office, they really
I had two,
put you right at
I
it.
had 2 jury trials in the first week I was a assistant state attorney. I had a battery case and I had a battery case and a criminal mischief case. The first case I got a guilty verdict on. It was actually a case in which there was 2 soccer moms coming back from a ballet recital, and one bumped into the other one, and apparently became a huge issue within the school, and the mothers ended up taking different sides, and so there was testimony about who bumped into who, and the case was awful, so the prosecutor's office gave it to me the second day I was there. I said, try the case, because neither party wanted to back down. There was no deals. They were offering deals to throw the case out, and nobody would take the deal. And I was able to get through it. I actually had a pretty successful cross-examination. I convicted the soccer mom of battery for bumping into the other with the shoulder. The judge,
What a public servant.
the judge gave her a fine, but the victim, the one that got bumped into, was crying. I was like, oh my God, I'm making a change in people's life. I didn't realize it was such a minuscule case when I started doing sexual battery cases and prosecuting murder cases down the road. But my second case was 2 days later. It was a criminal mischief case. It was 2 homeless people. One homeless person took the other one's bike and threw it in the dumpster after throwing it on him. So he was passed out in the parking lot of a convenience store when the police came to the scene. And I talked to my victim, the one who had the bike thrown on top of him and then thrown in the dumpster the night before, and I said, you just got to come in, tell the truth. I'll ask you questions, and if we get a conviction, then you'll be entitled to restitution for your bike, and the other party will get punished. And he says, well, do I have to worry about anything? I'm like, no, you're not going to jail. You're the victim in the case. All you have to do is testify. Needless to say, he shows up to court the next day drunk as a skunk, and I didn't know. I was 25 years old. I didn't even register to me. So I put him on the stand, and halfway through his testimony, the judge calls me sidebar and says,
Mr.
"Prosecutor,
Meldon, approach the bench, please."
Says, "Prosecutor, I think your witness is drunk." And he calls the bailiff. The bailiff brings up a breathalyzer, breath tests the witness, and ends up having like 3 times the legal limit. Needless to say, he ended up spending the night in jail. So I lost that case, but in both cases, someone went to jail. So
you are watching Meldon Law Talk. This is our second podcast. How about that? This is a service of Meldon Law, a statewide law firm with primary office in Gainesville, also with offices in Ocala and Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I am joined by Carey Meldon to the left, Jeffrey Meldon to the right. We will be back to talk more about what Carey is doing with the Fort Lauderdale office, how that office came to be, what it's doing, how it's grown, and the services of Meldon Law. Thank you so much. Stick around. We'll be right back.
And I was in an accident. Someone ran a red light and hit me, and I was hurt. You don't know where to turn. Luckily, I called Jeffrey. These big insurance companies, they don't want you to win. They truly don't. But Jeffrey and his firm and the people that work here, they just really fight for you. You call the law offices of Jeffrey Meldon because you're going to need help, and they will help you.
Well, I was in a truck accident. Because of the accident, I've resulted in 3 back surgeries. We saw advertisements on TV, and guess who popped up more often than not? It was Jeffrey. The communication that he provided was so appreciative that he shows his compassion as a human. He assisted us in achieving one of our dreams, the acquisition of a home. And we're here today with smiles on our face with the assistance from Jeffrey.
Hello and welcome once again to Meldon Law Talk, a service of Meldon Law, a statewide law firm with its primary office in Gainesville and also with offices in Ocala and Fort Lauderdale, Florida. You can find us on the World Wide Web at www.meldonlaw.com. You can give us a call anytime, 24/7, toll free at 1-800-373-8000. You'll find us on Facebook, Meldon Law on Facebook. You can learn a lot about the type of work we do and about the service Jeffrey does in the community. And I want to just point out something, guys. While it's true there are many, many law firms statewide, whether it's Gainesville, whether it's Ocala, whether it's South Florida, there's only one law firm that is the official sponsor and partner of University of Florida Gator Athletics. That's Meldon Law.
Yeah, we're very excited that we formed this partnership with the Florida Gators, and what a great way to give back to the community.
It truly is, and you'll be seeing this, Jeffrey, not just at football games, at basketball games, but you'll see the name Meldon Law at baseball games. Literally every athletic sport, we're a partner of the Florida Gators.
Yeah, and it's a great honor for us to be invited to form a partnership with such a great brand like the Florida Gators.
Truly is. So we were talking last segment, we were talking about Carey's history, becoming an attorney. We were talking about the Fort Lauderdale office. Jeffrey, I'm going to toss to you first. So you'd been in practice in Gainesville. You had the Gainesville office up and running. At what point did you decide to expand? I know first it was Ocala, then you gave some thought to South Florida.
Well, I think Carey had the vision to expand into South Florida. He had some friends down there, and he was going down there frequently. And he came to me and said, "Dad, what do you think about, expanding down to South Florida?" I said, "Let's go for it."
Well, we truly are now a statewide firm because with Ocala, of course, you've been in Ocala how long? Quite a few years.
35 years.
All right, so we've had a presence there and the surrounding counties. We've always been able to go down to about the Palm Beach line, but now with Fort Lauderdale, we literally have the whole state covered, right?
Correct. And to kind of tie into what you guys were talking about, the Florida Gator partnership, what's really cool is that we're the worldwide exclusive partner of the Florida Gators, and that means that our reach is going to expand everywhere. Now, Florida is our state, and one of my goals down in South Florida, which includes Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and Palm Beach, and all the surrounding areas, is to try to bring the same service that Dad has brought to North Florida for the last 50 years down to South Florida. And you'd be surprised how communication, how competence, how having experience matters to South Floridians, because they get fleeced all the time by these law firms.
I can only imagine. Billboards everywhere, buses.
My job is actually easier in South Florida than it is in North Florida, because when we bring that same type of service to people in South Florida, they're shocked and they're so happy with our communication, with our, we don't make promises we can't keep. We want to deliver great results. And, my grandfather started practicing in Florida in the 1950s. Our family has been here for 80 years. We're not just down here to try to take people's money, then move back up to wherever they're from or move to a different country. We're not going anywhere. And so, and one of the things about Meldon Law, which is different than the big box firms, is that when you call Meldon Law, if you want to speak to a Meldon, you can. These big box firms, good luck. If they're gonna, unless your case is one in which you lost 2 legs and 2 arms or whatever, they're not going to give you a call back. The named partners, because honestly, you're just a number. And I can tell you this: when you call us and you say, "Well, I want to take some time to speak with Carey," or "I need to speak with Jeffrey," I've never seen my father say no, and I don't say no. In fact, I give my cell phone to my clients, and that's part of the service that we want to provide to everyone throughout the state, whether it's in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Palm Beach, Ocala, Gainesville, anywhere. I can tell you, not only because I'm a partner in the firm of Meldon Law, but as someone who's watched my father represent people for 40 years, there's no one else that's going to do a better job. And I feel that sincerely. And even if you have an existing lawyer, if you're not happy with that lawyer, if you want to get a second opinion, give us a call at 373-8000. We'd love to evaluate your case.
Jeffrey, I know one thing that we've talked about a lot, and we've really drilled down on this point in the COVID situation as we've had meetings, staff, statewide meetings, is the excellent client experience and understanding the emotional journey that a client goes on, whether it's a criminal case or whether it's a personal injury case, whether it's an automobile or a big truck or a slip and fall. There's this emotional journey the client goes on. And I know that you take a lot of pride in understanding that and working with that.
You know, the most important thing is to communicate with the client. If you call the client, you talk to them, you always learn something about their case. And clients come to us sometimes, and it's remarkable. They have a really good case, and they go, well, I can't talk to my lawyer, or they don't return calls. And I get that all the time. And it shocks me because if you're not going to talk to your client, then, to me, you're not doing your job.
And what you just said a second ago, that every time you speak to a client, you learn something. Humanizing the client, making sure that client is not just a number, whether it's a personal injury case or even a criminal case, making your adversary realize this is somebody who's got a story. This is a unique individual. And it truly is amazing what we learn as we drill down and get to know our clients better.
Well, not only that, they appreciate it. And no matter what the outcome of the case is, if you work hard for your clients, they know it.
They truly do. Carey, I wanted to go back to what you were saying a moment ago about the staff at the Fort Lauderdale office. You've put some excellent people in there. Why don't you say a few words to our listeners and viewers about the people you're working with down there?
So we hired a really talented trial lawyer named Tanner Demery, who had run for judge in Broward County, which is where Fort Lauderdale is located, last year. And we were able to get him to work in our criminal defense department while I'm heading up the personal injury, the car accidents, truck accidents, motorcycle accidents, slip and fall cases like that. He's going to be handling mostly our DUI defense, and he's done an incredible job. Down in South Florida, there is a law that states, and in fact it's throughout the whole state of Florida, that if you are arrested for DUI, your license will most likely be suspended. And to
regardless of the outcome.
Regardless of the outcome, and to fight these cases is almost impossible. In fact, you call 5 DUI attorneys in South Florida and say that you want them to fight your case in what's called this formal review hearing, which is the process in which you get your driver's license back. They're going to say, well, we don't do that because we always lose. The statewide success rate, according to a actual case opinion written by a judge, I think 2 or 3 years ago, was like 4%. So only 4% of people whose license were suspended administratively got their license back. Right now, I think Tanner's above 50% since COVID hit.
Ian Pickens, same thing here in the Gainesville office.
Which is incredible. I mean, the type of reputation that we've built in Fort Lauderdale in the past 2 years with the DMV has been second to none. They call me they've actually requested my book from me so they can read it. And this is within 2 years of going down to South Florida. Honestly, that's what I see as such an opportunity, is that most of the time we're able to help people because we're going through the case with a fine-tooth comb, and we're representing people the right way, doing the research, and actually putting the time and effort in that you need to be a real lawyer. And most of these law firms down there are not doing their job. And like Jeffrey says, they probably should be doing something else if they don't want to be a trial lawyer, if they don't want to be a law firm.
You just reminded me of something I want to toss to both of you. One thing you've put a lot of pride into, Jeffrey, are these free books that are available on the website. If you don't know anything about Meldon Law, you're going to learn something right here. Go to our website again at www.meldonlaw.com. Jeffrey and Carey have written multiple books. There's a book that Jeffrey's written on auto insurance. There's a book on the 7 mistakes that can wreck your accident case. Carey and the criminal defense staff have written books on defending and winning DUI cases, and they're free. They're free downloads. You can get whether you're a client or not. Just go to the website, or you can call us at 1-800-373-8000, and we'll send you a hard copy. But I know in particular, you put a lot of time and thought into that insurance book because it's so critically important.
Absolutely. In the state of Florida, you have to buy uninsured motorist coverage to protect yourself and your family because the laws in Florida are different than the whole rest of the United States. So it sounds complicated, but it's really not. You just call up your insurance agent and you say, Jeffrey Meldon said I need uninsured motorist coverage, and he'll tell you, he or she will tell you all about it. But you should come armed with my book, Buying Florida Car Insurance, and you just show them page 46, and it's got everything summarized, and ask your insurance agent what do they think about my recommendations.
Carey, say a few words. We don't have a lot of time left, but say a few words about DUI defense, the DUI books. We talked about this on our radio show over the weekend. It's not hopeless. People think that they get charged with DUI, they don't have a chance, but they do have a chance, right?
You know, the genesis of the DUI book was actually written by Jeffrey. He was the chairman of the whole state of Florida for the DUI committee during the 1990s. So Dad created this reputation as a DUI gladiator, and that was kind of his deal in the 90s before he got into more personal injury car accident type of work. And so he had written that book, and we refined it, and we keep refining it every year to make sure that it's up to date. And I know our conviction rate for our clients is much, much less than what the average is. When I was in Gainesville, I did a stat poll one year when I was doing DUIs full time, and the average conviction rate for people arrested for DUI was 74%. And if they hired the Meldon Law firm, it was only 37%. So we were actually half of what the average was. And I always told people, you know, you can't really necessarily compare a DUI to, you know, a cancer surgery. But if you did, and your doctor said, if you go with this, if this particular surgeon, or if you found out that this particular surgeon had a 74% success rate and the other surgeon only had a 37% success rate, you probably would go with the one that had the much higher success rate. So, you know, you get what you pay for. We're not the least expensive firm, but we still keep, you know, reasonable prices, and we actually work the case thoroughly.
Well, and I think you make a very important point there, is that if you're shopping just for price, you're going to make a mistake. I think the key thing, I think the takeaway from everything the two of you are saying is that Meldon Law is a firm with experience. We are in our 6th decade. We started in the 1970s. Personal injury law, criminal defense law, there just is no question that the experience is extraordinary. And again, I'd like to urge all our listeners and viewers to take a look at our website at www.meldonlaw.com. We are a firm that does specialize in injury cases and criminal defense cases. You can also reach us on your cell phone, pound HURT, pound 4878, anytime, 24/7. We've only got about a minute left. Jeffrey, let me toss to you. What are some of your final thoughts for today?
Well, I think the whole fall season will be greatly improved if we figure out a way to beat Georgia tomorrow.
I'd agree with that. We are the official law firm of the Florida Gators. So, yes, this is very emotional and passionate to us. How about you, Carey?
You know, I concur with Dad. Usually his thoughts are dead on. So let's beat Georgia tomorrow, and after next week, we'll take it as it comes. I'll tell you one thing. If you ever are down in Fort Lauderdale and you're a Meldon Law client from up north, come by, give me a ring, and say hi. We'd love to see you.
Where is the office?
We're at 1 East Broward Boulevard. We're right near downtown Fort Lauderdale. We're on the 7th floor, and we're always open for your visits, so give us a call.
Thank you so much for being a part of this program. We'll have a lot more information in the days and weeks to come about all the platforms where this will be available. We'll also be on some audio-only platforms like Spotify and a couple of others. Take a look at the Meldon Law Facebook page. Just look up Meldon Law. You'll see a lot more information about this and other programs. Thank you so much for being a part of the program. And what do we say at the end of every show?
Go
Gators! See you next week.